and The Fan.
The Minnesota Wild postgame continues with Wild Fan Line on KFAN. Presented by Carboni's Pizzeria and Grey Duck Spirits. Your thoughts on tonight's game are welcome at 651-989-KFAN. Now, here is The Fan's Brandon Molesky.
Good evening. Welcome to Wild Fan Line. Wild win 4-3 over the Anaheim Ducks tonight in overtime at XL Energy Center. Pat Micheletti along with me, Brandon Molesky. We're taking your calls at 651-989-5326 or 1-800-320-5326. Wild Fan Line is brought to you by Carboni's Pizza and Grey Duck Spirits. Good evening, Pat.
Hello, Brandon. Sorry, I was looking at my sheet here.
That's fine.
I apologize.
You know, it's kind of interesting how
my entrance into Fan Line was kind of like the last two nights.
Well, hopefully you close better than you started. But that's okay.
Okay, focus. I'm good.
You know, I think you and I, probably watch games from a different perspective, in that we know we're going to have to talk about everything in the game. So
Yep.
So as you're watching the game, you kind of think, oh, this is a topic. This is that kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's fair or not, you've kind of become the face of the Victor Rask fan club.
Yeah,
and not that you're saying he's an all-star, but
no.
But you've taken some criticism on this show and even via social media for defending him to a certain extent. And when he fanned on the empty net goal towards the end of regulation, the thought that came in my head was, "Oh gosh, the callers are going to attack Pat Micheletti."
Yeah, and
then he scores the game-winning goal in overtime and totally redeems himself.
Oh boy, yeah. Well, if we're going to start with him, let's start with him.
Go ahead. I mean, we might as well, right?
I mean, and then people can, like I've said before, and I'll say it again and again and again and again. He's there because the coach thinks he fits there with who he's playing with, why he's on the power play, and all of that. It's not so much me defending him as much as defending the coach and what he sees and what he thinks he wants out of him. So it goes deeper than just, I don't look at this team even as the individual itself, as more the parts that are put together for them to succeed. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah. And so that's where I and maybe shame on me if I'm not explaining the thought process behind why Rask is where he is, and et cetera, et cetera. Again, you and I have talked a million times on the air, off the air. Of course, he's not a number one center. He's probably not a number two center. And if Eck is your long-term number three center, well then, does he fit on a fourth line? I don't know. We don't have to worry about that now. That's not our decision. We just kind of try to explain what we see.
651-989-5326 if you'd like to join us. We'll begin with Mike in Pine Island. Hi, Mike.
Hey, guys. How you guys doing?
Good, Mike.
All right, question. It's about Zach Parise. I know that there's a lot to unload on the topic.
Yep.
But the last two games, healthy scratch.
Yep.
In your opinion, I know there's no facts to this. Is this them trying to tell him, hey, look, you're either going to lift your no move, or this is what your future is going to look like? I'll tune out and listen.
Okay.
I'm just curious.
Well, here's the deal.
Thanks, Mike.
If they're thinking that, they're not saying that, but I would venture to guess that the head coach is saying, what lineup in our determination as a staff gives us the best chance to win tonight or tomorrow night or the playoffs or what have you. I don't really think, especially with the way that they're going, if they were, clinging to get in or not in, or no, they didn't have a chance to win in the first round, I think the conversation may be a little bit different. Right now, I think he's putting out there the team that he thinks is going to give them the best chance. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think anything that's going to happen this offseason plays any part in this because, with 3 games, now 2 games remaining in the regular season, you're trying to put together the best possible roster to give you a run in the postseason. So I don't think they're playing a message of, we'll show Zach that he's got to waive his no move clause by making him angry with a couple games left. I don't buy that. I just think he's not one of your 12 best forwards. Now, I will say, Nick Bukestad hasn't overly impressed me, so I could see Parisi slotting back in that spot if they're not going to bring Boldy up.
Well, I'm glad you brought that name up, but go ahead.
But and the other part is Parisi looked like he was laboring, and he had a stretch, a couple weeks ago in which he was on the COVID list and had a week or two off, and he came back, and he was great those first couple games. So it also might be just, let's get this guy. He's older. He's at a late stage in his career. He needs to be fully 100%. And need to have energy and health. And so I think it's probably a combination of. I think they probably just think he's not one of their 12 best forwards and won't be able to stay with the pace of a playoff series. And they're just going to find the 12 guys to do and try to get chemistry. But at the same time, you can also give him a little blow and hopefully he's rested and gives you that same energy he did earlier.
I made a bold statement, I think the last fan line, where I said, I think Boldy will be up and play in the playoffs. Now, that was just me. I made some calls today. I have a history with the American League because I do Iowa Wild games, or not this year. But I called some people down there. I said, give me the lowdown on Boldy. And the comment back was, he's completely dominating this league. Big statement for a rookie. Usually, you got to learn how to be a pro and this and that, but he's dominating. And I'll say it again. I don't think they signed him to blow a year on his deal because he wanted to sign. You know what I mean?
And then not use it.
Because they could have not use it.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be part of the equation.
And there's a spot available. Like I said,
there is.
The Bukestad has not played so well on that fourth line. We're like, we got to have him in the lineup.
No. And you might need, that extra body. Now, because your extra bodies then would be, Kyle Rao, Johnson, who else is on the taxi squad? I don't even know. Whatever. Right?
Yeah.
Mayhew, but he's down. I think they're going to give this kid a chance in the last two. It would not shock me.
They should.
If he is called up tomorrow.
They should. Take a look at him.
Why not?
Yeah.
And
see what you got.
They know where they're ending up, right? Pretty much. They're playing Colorado.
It's most. Colorado and Vegas were both winning last time I checked for tonight.
Yeah.
Because the Wild actually, as of right now, 1 point ahead of Colorado, but Avalanche playing, and they're up 3-1 on the LA Kings in the second period there. So Colorado will get back in that lead, and then Vegas is up 2-0 on St. Louis. Now, I believe Colorado and Vegas play each other once coming up here, so at least one of those teams will not gain 2 points in one of those games. But no, I think you're right. If I were Bill Guerin, I'd give Boldy a look the last two games, and
you might sit a guy. Just throw him in,
see if he adapts.
Yep.
Woodbury Larry, you're on the fan. Hi, Woodbury Larry.
Sludgy, how's she going today?
Good.
Mick, I was just going to ask you your thoughts on Mr. Boldy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him play. I've watched him fairly closely over the last year.
Yep.
And I actually cruised down to Des Moines and saw his professional debut against Rockford. And the kid he's so composed. The moment is never too big for him. Anytime he steps up in weight class, and he does so many things so well.
Yeah,
I would absolutely love to see him get a shot, and to see if you have any further thoughts on that.
You know what I think? Here's what I think. I think you have to get knocked down before you succeed at some point in whatever you do in your life. He gets drafted number 1 overall by the Wild, and then gets cut from the junior team. Then he has a terrible start with Boston College, and he came back and
better than ever,
and worked at it, and good on him.
I just saw it within the last couple of days online. One of those, prospects analysis where they, rank the prospects of each teams, and they made the comment to how they don't consider Kirill Kaprizov a prospect anymore, yet the Wild still have one of the best prospect systems in the league, right? So you take away Kaprizov and you still, with Boldy, who, should be pretty legit. I think Kalen Addison his stock is on the rise.
Yeah.
Who knows what we're going to have in Marco Rossi if after he basically just had to skip a year and almost a year and a half now, where he hasn't really been playing a ton, and obviously had the unfortunate COVID situation and the heart stuff, but they still could be potentially loaded here.
Yeah.
In the system, and we're not even talking, we already have our superstar who we know is a superstar.
Isn't that nice?
It's very nice. I was just thinking,
I don't even know what to say.
I was just thinking today as I was watching him, how grateful I am to be able to watch this and know I get to watch this for the night. We've been waiting a long time for someone like this, and he's been every bit as good as we would have ever imagined he would be. And if they can find someone comparable to him to play with him,
yeah,
can you imagine that?
I can't. I mean,
if we get someone to set him up like he sets other guys up,
yeah.
I mean, his two setups tonight, the Spurgeon and Hartman on the rushes.
That's why you think, gosh, that's why you feel so bad for a Marco Rossi, because you know what, you and I talked to him, you and I talked to Boldy. That it's one good thing that this organization has done is they've vetted these guys. These guys are driven. Marco Rossi.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the story better than I. I mean, it's just incredible. And he told us, I'm going to make the team. I'm going to make the team. Mm-hmm. And he probably would have. And Boldy and, Addison, I mean, that it's really, and
Adam Beckman, who knows what kind of NHL level he'll be at, but he's got
the two Russians, yep. One that played in the junior tournament, the other one that's in the KHL now.
Yep.
I mean, you've got
Kustantinov.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
I thought Ryan Carter made a great point on the television broadcast tonight regarding Kaprizov, because we could talk about him all day long.
Yep.
He kind of made the point of, there's certain NHL scorers, like legit goal scorers that score
nightly.
They kind of have their go-to scoring move, right? Like you mentioned that Alexander Ovechkin on the one spot on the power play,
yep.
He's just automatic from there, right? Just a brilliant shot. And, we see Connor McDavid always scoring these moves on the rush and
yep.
the speed, and McKinnon's kind of similar. Kaprizov can score in any way, shape, or form, and he'll pass in situations where it looks like it's ideal for him to shoot. And both his assists tonight were probably plays in which many were going, shoot the puck.
Yeah.
And he waited at the very last second to get that thing to Spurgeon. I don't know how many players in the league pass up that shot to get that thing over to Spurgeon there, and it was the right play. And then, the pass to Hartman on the 2-on-1, just a little bit of a saucer pass, just perfectly placed. But another spot where he could have shot the puck. I mean, I don't think goalies can get a read on this guy. You don't know when he's going to shoot. You don't know when he's going to pass. You don't know when he's going to deke. You don't know when he's going to wrap around. He can do anything.
And you know why that is? All good goal scorers, all good playmakers, what you're talking about, they know where the net is. And that may sound like weird, but
that was my problem when I was younger. I didn't know where the net was.
You have to know, you have to know where the net is, where you are. And it's hard. It's really hard to explain, but there's just something about, okay, I know where to go. I know when to shoot it. I know when to pass it. You own that area. And it's, not many people have
He's just thinking at a whole different level than everybody else.
Yeah. Good way to put it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Jerry, Bill, Josh, David, Gary, Denny, we have full phone lines. We'd take all your calls next. Wild win 4-3 over the Anaheim Ducks in overtime tonight. Wild Fan Line is brought to you by Carbone's Pizza and Grey Duck Spirits. We'll take all of those calls next.
Fan.
Here comes Kaprizov. One man to beat. Has a decoy. Takes the shot. Score! 2-on-1. Kaprizov deals it to Ryan Hartman. And Ryan Hartman buries it to give the Wild their first lead in the hockey game. Number 7 of the year for Ryan Hartman.
Kevin Fallness and Tom Reed on the call tonight. Wild win in overtime 4-3 over the Anaheim Ducks. Wild now with 75 points on the season. 35, 14, and 5. This is Wild Fan Line. It's brought to you by Carboni's Pizza and Grey Duck Spirits. Brandon Molesky and Pat McLeody taking your calls. Let's go back to the phone lines. Jerry in Roseville. Hi, you're on Wild Fan Line.
It was Jay. I'm sorry you heard me wrong.
That's all right. Jay in Roseville.
My question is, do you think this year's Wild is as good as the 2003 Wild? And if they are, how far can they go?
You know what? It's kind of a different league. Would I say they have more talent on this team? Yes. But you can't take away what that team did. And do they have the same character? I guess we'll find out. And the will to win, and they play the completely different style.
The game's different.
The rules are different.
But on paper, this team is.
But on paper,
this team is better.
Look player for player, yeah.
There's always this thing, and just like that's, you can't look at a stat sheet and there's just this chemistry.
Yes,
and that team had it for that month and a half, whatever that was, to be down 3-1 in both of those series and come back against those two giants. I mean. That was a very improbable run.
And a fun one.
Let's go to Josh in Lakeville. Hi, Josh. You're on Wild Fan Line.
Yeah, just listening to you guys break down Kaprizov's game, telling them how, the goalies don't know whether he's going to shoot or pass, or it really sounds like you're breaking down my beer league game. But I just don't get it. What the Bukestad hatred, it seems like what Common Man would say, is it beginning of the end of the end? What's going on with his game? And Mike Barrero would say, he's one of us. So what's the deal? Why is everybody hating on him? And what's going on?
Who's hating on him?
Yeah.
And what's going on with his game?
I mean, just. I don't dislike him. I don't
think anyone's hating on him.
No,
I haven't seen. Maybe they are on social media or something. But
sure.
He's been fine.
He's okay. He's not doing anything that's hurting the team. I'm just saying that if you have a guy in Boldy that you'd like to move up, I just think there's a spot where I wouldn't say Bukestad's played so well that, man, you got to keep him in the lineup. Right. I guess that was my point. I'm not mad at the way he's playing. I'm not upset. He's not hurting you.
Nope.
But he's also not doing anything that's you have to keep him in.
That's why you have a fourth line, right? And you can shuffle guys in and out of there if you have to, or if you want to, or if you're looking for something else. If someone else can bring something on a particular night.
And I'd also say with him, like, I think on paper you look at a guy his size and go, that's the kind of guy you want playing in the playoffs. But he doesn't really play to his size.
No.
Right?
Should dominate. I thought, when you saw him in college and you saw his size and you saw the way that he handled the puck and shot the puck, you would think that's a Mario Lemieux type of player. Can skate, and just hasn't dominated. But it's but then again, people say, oh, God, look at how great this guy was in college. And then you go to the best league in the world.
It's a whole nother
where
level.
you have men, and it's harder. It's harder.
Yeah.
But that
doesn't mean he can't play a role in the team.
That's not a knock on Nick Bukestad.
Yeah. There's lots of them that have done that.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have done that.
Sure.
David in Minneapolis, you're on Wild Fan Line. Hi, David.
Hey, good evening. So given the Wild's regular season struggles with face-off, what will that translate into the playoffs when things tighten up? And then also, if the Wild are unfortunate enough to go out in the first round, given that how dominant Colorado and Vegas have been this year, is there any way that could be perceived like in other first-round outs in other years. I mean, it feels like this year they've had a lot of overtime wins, amazing comebacks from multiple goals down. This doesn't feel like that kind of a season.
Thanks, David.
Well, here's the deal. The face-offs have been a big talker. Everyone says, "Oh, this get rid of him because he can't win a draw." If you lose a draw and you give up a goal, I have a problem with it. Okay, but throughout the course of the game, you're going to win draws, you're going to lose draws. You're going to, where are they happening? Are you giving up a lot of scoring chances? Yeah, you certainly want to be on the better side of 50% and win the majority of your draws. I don't know. I don't know. If I'm going to say can't win a draw, we're not going to win.
I've told you billions of times that I think face-offs just become a way too overrated topic.
Kind of like the plus minus.
But, there are times where the face-off, right? If you're in the last 30 seconds to a minute of the game, like face-offs are huge. If to start a power play where, either going to start with possession or they're going to ice the puck and now you've just killed 15, 20 seconds and still have to get your entry. There are times where face-offs are significant. I'm not trying to downplay, but I also think the fact that it keeps being brought up as a topic is probably a good thing because that means there's not really a lot else on this team to poke at, right? Like the power play has, become a competent power play in the league. They're pretty good at everything else.
Yeah.
Sure. Could they use a number one center? Yes. But I think people just keep poking and poking and poking at the faceoffs because there's not a lot else to dissect and say this is what's bad with our team.
Brandon, this team has won 35 games.
Yes. Without being great at faceoffs.
Yeah. And without having that guy or this guy or that guy or this center, or they've won 35 games. And say what you like in a which is going to turn out to be in the first round of the playoffs the best set of playoff series we will see in the first round. Vegas, St. Louis, Colorado, Minnesota. We think that's going to be
good.
Yeah.
And sadly, one of those teams is going to have a great regular season, have a great team, and not win. And
right.
Get knocked in the first round.
And I won't be able to handle mentally the backlash if they don't win the first round. Because, as you just said, this isn't another first round.
No, this is different.
This is like you're jumping into the belly of the beast.
Now, if they're not competitive, right? I mean, if you're getting swept or losing in 5 games and the other team's controlling it, then I understand.
Right.
But I don't see this team.
Either do I.
Getting manhandled in a 7-game series. I think they're going to be competitive.
Yep.
Gary in Minneapolis, you're on Wild Fan Line. Hi, Gary.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. I got to tell you, I don't think you hear this enough, and I'll say it on behalf of all of us. This is a heck of a show. I just love it, and I think you two have such a great feel for each other. I think your partnership is terrific, and your presence with each other is great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. So, moving on, I have a personnel question and a technical question. Speaking of draws, what gets a guy kicked out of the draw, and what do refs look for that make him that boot a guy? And secondly, can you speak to Greenway's presence in the last, many games? Just speak to how you think he's doing, I guess, because we don't hear about him much during the game, and I watch him during, just on the screen, and honestly, I don't see a lot. But maybe I'll let you guys speak to that, and I'll hang up and listen. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Gary.
I'll let you handle the face-off part because they've changed it so much.
I've never understood why linesmen why sometimes they kick guys out and sometimes they. It looks like they're
first
fake.
Now.
All I know is we don't get kicked out as much without Mikko on the team.
No,
right? We don't get kicked out nearly as much.
No, you're right.
And then he would get kicked out and then complain to the linesman every single time. It's like, well, maybe half the problem is you complain all the time and they just don't like you.
Yeah, could be.
Just stop complaining.
Yep. Greenway. I think if you look at that line, the line is effective. If you evaluate the line, they are not a pretty line. They play north-south, get it in, battle, below the cage. They're not going to make that pretty play. Hence, you're probably not going to notice them a lot until they get a forecheck going that is, in there for, 15, 20, 25 seconds. And they're then you notice. You will notice at times where he just manhandles people. Okay? And I know the expectation is you have to do that every time. I think that's easier said than done.
It takes a lot of energy.
It really does take a ton of energy. When he's putting that arm out and then throwing a guy down, that
he had a pretty big one tonight.
Did you see that? I mean, he did just like he blew and the guy went down.
Yeah.
But no, I think he's got 25 assists. I didn't know that until it was brought to my attention.
Got 25 assists?
Yeah. Leads the league or leads the team in assists.
How does he only have 6 goals?
I know.
Yeah, I mean he's fourth in the team in scoring. So if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that he'd be fourth in scoring, I'd be like, that's great. That's fine.
I would have said huge jump.
Yeah. Now he did have a defensive miscue. I thought his coverage was a little lazy on that first Anaheim goal tonight, and that's something that if you're playing Colorado and that line's going to be asked to shut down the McKinnon line, he's going to have to be a little bit more defensively aware.
Do you think they'll play that line? Let's look at Colorado. Do you think who do you think is going to play against the McKinnon line? Do you think
at home it'll be that line? Yes. On the road, I think Colorado will change up the matchups because
I think Foligno's going to have to just irritate the what out of Rantanen.
Yep. When the games have been in Colorado this year, they've thrown first line out against first line. They've had McKinnon and Landeskog and Rantanen out against Kaprizov at the time, Rask, who's been moved a little bit here, and Zuccarello. And they really negated Kaprizov in those games just by saying, you're not going to have possession of the puck. We're going to have the puck.
Now,
we're going to have our best line.
Yeah. Now, how would you attack or defend that line? Meaning, are you going to go into a
defensive shell?
Yeah, not so much a shell, but you know what I mean. More, let's be on the right side of the puck all the time type thing.
To me, if you're playing that line, you can't change the way they've been playing all year. Like what they've been doing has been successful. That line can be good defensively because they forecheck the heck out of you offensively. Right. And to me, I would want to make that line work defensively as much as possible to try to wear them down and get them a little fatigued. So by the time they get into the offensive zone, they don't have the same energy and the same step. You can't turn the puck over on them.
No.
So, yeah, you probably got to get to the red line and get it deep and go to work on the forecheck, and you can't make passes in the neutral zone that are, or either blue line.
I think the D are as critical as the 3 forwards in defending McKinnon in the sense that they're going to have to cheat a little bit, in my opinion, because if you give McKinnon 2 feet, 3 feet in his own zone when he gets a puck,
the
puck's going to be in your. It's getting in your zone.
Yeah, I would say the one concern, I would think Brodin and Dumba, just based off Brodin's skating ability, would be up against McKinnon. Dumba hasn't looked great the last couple games.
No, that's concerning.
Not as bad tonight as the last 2 games. I thought he was pretty bad. Yeah. That needs to turn around before that series. Yeah. Denny and Prior Lake, Jeff and New Brighton, stay and hold. We'll get to your calls next. One final segment to Wild Fan Line. Wild win 4-3 over the Anaheim Ducks tonight in overtime at XL Energy Center. Wild Fan Line, as always, brought to you by Carboni's Pizza and Grey Duck Spirits. One final segment to Fan.
The Fan.
Wild, though, able to gather it in their own end. It's Dumba that comes in retreat and sends a rink-wide pass for Rask. Shoots, he scores! An overtime winner for Victor Rask, the 3rd of his National Hockey League career, and the Wild an overtime winner in the final game.
It's just critical of Matt Dumba before the commercial break. That was a great pass by him in overtime to set up that Victor Rask rush. Got that thing up quickly, catching Anaheim on an outnumbered situation. A Wild win 4-3 in overtime tonight over the Ducks at XL Energy Center. One final segment of Wild Fan Line brought to you by Carboni's Pizza and Grey Duck Spirits. And before we get back to the calls, Pat, I've now moved on to a new crush, and I think this is the biggest crush I've ever had in Kirill Kaprizov.
Yes.
My previous crush, and I still have some love for, was Jared Spurgeon.
Yeah, I know.
And I feel like Kaprizov has just taken to a whole nother level that we've kind of forgotten about him. When he was named captain before the year, the first 10, 15 games, I kind of thought, man, he just, he's making a mistake here or there, and with him, he never makes mistakes. He just gets kind of noticeable, and he's still a good player, but seemed a little off. I'll tell you what, second half of the season, he's come back to being the Jared Spurgeon we all know and love. And I still think, the power play turnaround when he got put on the top power play unit, he's now, he had a goal tonight. He's at 25 points on the season. He's leading all your defensemen in scoring. I can't remember the last time he made a defensive mistake. He's quietly playing very well heading into the playoffs for the Wild.
Brandon, for the last, 4 or 5 years, you've had this crush on him. You've watched his game. I never really watch his game because, we seldom talk about him because we just know, there's nothing to talk about. Now, I really started watching him this year after the start of the season when he was, where people were talking, he didn't play very well tonight. He didn't play very. I'm like, okay, I'm going to start watching him. And
that's up to Jared Spurgeon's standards, by the way.
Yeah, right. Right.
Still, generally speaking, he's playing well better than most.
And I'm like, what am I missing? So I started watching him, and I've really been keeping an eye on him lately, and he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal at what he does. I don't know. I don't know how he does it so often, so effortlessly against some of the guys that he goes up against. He just, oh my gosh, he's good.
He's really good. He knows when to jump up, when to stay back.
Yeah. Smart.
Denny in Prior Lake, you're on Wild Fan Line. Hi, Denny.
As always, it's good to talk to you guys.
Denny.
For calling.
Well, the reason I called in late is because I wanted to listen to everybody talk about what they want to talk about.
Okay.
And there's a few things I want to bring up. Number one, we have Manello over in the KHL who's just lighting them up. He has 47 points in 56 games over there. We got to sign him.
Well,
it's kind of his decision to leave in the first place.
Yeah,
it's still a two-way street.
Yep, he wanted an opportunity with the big club and didn't see it and wanted to continue to develop. Thought he had developed all he could. He played 2 years in Iowa and, made a lot of progress and wanted to take another step. Maybe he will. I don't know. I think what he did was he gave himself some options, and he should have given himself some options.
Well, and I liked him for the Iowa Wild. I always thought he was the guy that could play at the NHL level, but as of right now, Matt Dumba as a right shot defenseman is ahead of him on the depth chart, and Kalen Addison as a prospect is probably above him as well, which is probably why he got the heck out of Dodge.
Correct.
Well, maybe. And then another, they brought up about the Bukestad haters. Well, that comes from another show.
Oh,
it does?
Yeah, and I have to tell you, management should be listening. They have a dedicated show to the Wild every day, and it's jam-packed. And if you guys had that show every day, you'd be jam-packed. So let management just listen to that.
All right. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's fine. Thanks, Danny.
Okay.
No, I really don't.
Neither do I. I have not heard one, but
no.
Whatever. Maybe.
I don't think people want to hear you and I every single day.
No.
We would grade on them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Jeff in New Brighton, you're on Wild Fan Line. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, guys. Hey, I understand that the playoffs are all about speed and not fighting, but I don't think people realize we got a hell of a guy down in Iowa that can fisticuffs with anybody. Cody McLeod.
He can't play here. I'm not knocking Cody McLeod. He's a great guy. He had a good career, blah, 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 in terms of what he did in his role. But he's on an AHL contract, not an NHL one. So even if they wanted to, they couldn't.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And even if they could, they shouldn't.
No.
The team's going well the way it is.
Yeah. And they don't need, I don't, and Cody, is past his prime in terms of playing at this level. And, he wasn't even he was for all accounts, I mean, he's doing a great job in Iowa helping mentor the kids, and that's what he's really there for.
Well, and this Wild team can play that style a little bit.
They're not going to get pushed around.
If need be.
Yeah.
Right? And when you and I talked about the other night when Kaprizov got hit from behind, that was the quickest I've ever seen Wild players come to the defense
ever
of a star player. Foligno can do it if need be. Hartman, Greenway, Eriksson Ek to a certain extent, Sturm. I mean, they have enough guys that, Soucy on the back end.
They protect each other. And really, it's more about the regular season where all that crap, for lack of a better word, happens.
Yeah.
Not so much in the playoffs. It's too important.
Well, not to mention, we all love Kaprizov, but you are going to need some depth scoring come playoff time as well, because a guy like Kaprizov is going to get so much attention.
Yeah.
And one of the advantages the Wild have had over the last 2 months is their fourth line has been contributing pretty good offensively. And if you want to split that up and just throw some guy who's just going to run around out there, guess what? That's going to take away from one of the advantages you have.
How did the Blues win it 2 years ago? They won it with four lines.
Yeah.
Yes, Ryan O'Reilly was the captain, but and he was terrific. But man, they got it from all four lines that were contributing.
Quickly, last topic before we go. Fiala assists tonight. He had 5 shots on goal. I know he's missed a game within the last game or two with injuries. A little concerned about that going into the playoffs. But I thought he played very well tonight and seems to be trending at the right time, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is. I think he got through his pouch early in the year. Then he got suspended. Then it took him a while to get back. And once he got back, he's been great. I mean, he has been great. And I shouldn't have said the pouch, but Kaprizov was getting all the things. He tried to do everything all by himself.
Yeah.
And then it was like a step back. Okay. The give and goes, he had someone to play with, and his game has been terrific.
Basically, it was like he was an only child.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you got a little brother who's getting lots of attention from mom and dad.
Yeah.
And you're fighting for that attention, and you're not getting all the attention you used to, but then you just adjust to it and go, that's all right, I'm still big brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Something like that. That's a terrible analogy.
No, I think it was.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Brandon.
Thanks to Brett Blakemore as well. Brett. Wild win in overtime 4-3 tonight over the Anaheim Ducks. Wild Fan Line was brought to you by Carboni's Pizza and Grey Duck Spirits. We have one final Wild Fan Line of the regular season. That will be after the regular season finale Thursday night, the second game against the St. Louis Blues. And then maybe we'll bring you some playoff editions of Wild Fan Line, depending on what time the games are at. Thank you so much for listening tonight. Really appreciate it. Have a good Mother's Day tomorrow.